probably the house too, but baby, it's stuck to me like glue.
Hey folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're coming from. This is episode 11, Reflections of Evelyn. I just want to send a little disclaimer and apology. I am driving to work right now, but this felt like an extremely pressing episode that I needed to mention right now. And I need to be careful how I word it. It's so incredibly delicate, but it's almost like I need to be shouting it from the rooftop. And there have been some recent events that have happened that have made me feel like it was on my heart to express it. And I wanted to express it while I was in the very middle of trying to formulate my opinion, understand my emotions, try to feel like understand where all of this is coming from. And again, this is not like this side versus the other. This is more of literal reflection that I hope you will take into your life as well, to not take sides on one side or the other and just formulate opinions of how you view the situation, because I think we are living in a world right now. I mean, I can't say that it hasn't always been like this since the beginning of time, but not to say this in a negative light, because it is what it is. But we live in a very, and I mean very, fucked up, chaotic, messy, complicated world, environment, society. And I like to think one of my opinions is that we don't have enough resources on this planet. We've got too many people on this planet. And it's like when you look at a big company, it's harder to focus on the needs of your employees, to know the people's names, of the people that you're working with. When you get so big, it's hard to take care of the little things that are extremely important. You miss details. You fall through the cracks. And I think that some of the things that I'm going to bring up, I mean, to be honest, I don't know what your reactions are, because I think what people spew out on social media and what people brag about or say to their friends and family is different than what you, in your soul, in your heart, in your mind, think as an individual. I think deep down, if you were alone in your room right now, thinking about this conversation and your own experience, and you don't then go into social media or jump and tell a friend, and you just sit with yourself and ask these questions from your own experiences, like you personally, and also what you have seen in society, I think it would really help kind of give you a defined kind of answer for yourself. And I don't want to say there's no right and wrong answer on this. It's so complicated. And I really mean when I say, like, the world is so freaking big, like, I honestly don't know how anything gets done. I don't understand how justice is ever served. I feel like I've been a unique case my whole life, especially like I was a child, where things just fell backwards, where someone might say something and something might be the norm, but then in my life it would be the exact opposite. And that's actually been my whole life. It's really hard for me to be on either side of an extreme spectrum. Very hard for me to do. I mean, one is I'm a girl and I'm a straight girl and I mainly have guy friends. I have had girlfriends in my life. They don't usually stick around, maybe a couple months, maybe a couple years. Some were best friends. Some I miss tragically to this day. But for whatever reason, guys stick around in my life and girls don't. That's not very common. I hear about for most women. Girls power, girl team, girls night going out, girl this and that. That doesn't really happen for me that often. I got a divorce over 5 years ago, and the trope of women getting a divorce, the stereotypical whatever is, courtside with the women, that women get 50% of the man's everything, and courts say that women get, the wife, whatever those cases may be. Like, pro women, go wives, like, tragic, boom, boom. That was not my experience at all. I think I actually was paid only for an $800 pair of shoes that I bought my paid me 10 grand because I paid him a free loan for him to go to school. So essentially, he paid me money back that I paid in full for him to go to school. But there was no money. And then, of course, he divorced me, basically, like, kicked me when I was down, like, emotionally, and was like, oh, this is a great time to divorce her. She can't really think for herself. She doesn't have a lot of support right now. She doesn't have any, like, money or anything like that. She's not going to be able to come after me with an attorney. We can't really do this in, like, mediation. Like, I had to worry about, like, my survival, and divorce was really not something that I could have even been dealing with at that time. My point is, you know, every time I hear, oh, I don't want to get married, or guys are afraid of marriage, prenup, this and that, it's like, I always roll my eyes because I was like, I didn't get jack shit in my marriage. If anything, like, he got a really good deal. So that was only just to say that, like, you know, I don't really fit into the norms or stereotypes of what people kind of play into. I do think there's a lot of people that are subject to mental and physical abuse, and, you know, they rally or, you know, cry or post on social media, and then in many different cases, all different cases, sometimes the guys are prosecuted, sometimes the girls are, sometimes justice gets served, sometimes it doesn't. It's really hard to touch on this because you can't just take a snippet of something and be like, yes, this is all the finite details of this entire court case and what's actually going on. So how much do we really know in someone's background? Really hard to make these kind of decisions, especially if you're just going off of like a snippet from the news or somebody's agenda. But like in my own personal experience, again, as a backwards kind of thought, you know, when I was younger, if you hit your kid, if you abused your child, you either went to jail or Child Protective Services was called. To be honest, I don't know what happened because it never happened in my situation. But I know it's bad, and I know especially in today's world, not even just today, it's the last like 20 years, domestic violence is a very big problem. Very big problem. But again, me having a backwards life, that wasn't like the case in my family. Something that I've been like trying to work through. I have to bring this up with my therapist. I'm like, ugh, I'm not talking to her for a week. So this is me trying to like understand my feelings a little bit. I don't believe I've brought this up before, but something that I've been really struggling with, I told my therapist last session that I have some issues I still need to work on with my family. I feel like as I worked on myself more, it has given me more of a bitterness or resentment or hardness towards some of my family members that felt more like parents to me when I was growing up. And you know, when two people in my family said we knew what was going on in your childhood, we did call social services, and they said, if you report this incident and make it official, you will never see, I went by Brittany then, you will never see Brittany again. We will take her on some random day. You will never hear from her again, and you won't know where she is. And two people in my family who have told me this story said, well, we don't want that. We don't want to never see her again. We're not okay with that, which also seems like weird to me. Like, how would you never like see or talk to me again? That seems kind of weird, but that's what they told my family. And they're like, okay, well, then I guess nothing happened. Everything's fine. Everything's great. Like, we don't want to not see her again, so forget we ever said anything type of attitude. And therefore, social services did not get involved. I continued to have a lot of issues in my household that were never addressed. The church frowned upon me talking about it. They said, honor your mother and father no matter what they're doing to you, honor your mother and father. You know, I would try to go to school and talk about it, and I didn't feel like I could because I was told that one of my family members went to the school teachers in kind of like a threatening way and said they had to keep tabs on me, so I didn't feel like I had allies. And then the reason why I'm bringing up this whole thing, on one hand, I had one parent who would beat me or drag me across the floor or like scream terror at me or not give me a personal bubble or base where I could feel safe. And I would run away from home quite a few times just for a couple hours, just so I had a safe space where I could regulate. And so on one hand, when one parent doing that to you, it's really bad. But this is kind of what I wanted to get into. Domestic violence and physical abuse is not a dairy to me, and I would take that 10 million times over again than the other parent who watches it happen and does nothing. And I think this is a controversial type of conversation, but this is all being from a conversation I had with a guy that I can't go with last night, and he told me something. He said that he didn't use the word poke, he didn't say the word demand. What word did he use? Prying, no. I forget what word he used, but basically he was saying, like, he didn't like that I made him feel like he had to tell me something in his personal life. And I wasn't, like, demanding about it, but, like, he didn't feel comfortable sharing something, and I didn't feel comfortable not knowing. I said, this is a part of, like, intimacy and vulnerability and communication. I said, I'm trying to get to know you. I said, how else do you get to know someone than by, like, knowing these things that, like, you aren't talking about? And he finally paid. He said, yeah, I got a misdemeanor. And he implied earlier and made it sound, he didn't lie, but he implied, he went along with it when I assumed it was a DUI because he said he shouldn't be driving. And then he talks about how he needs to take, like, 50 courses, and how he was struggling because he didn't have, like, a job anymore, and he's afraid he might get arrested because he's got court next month, and he hasn't been able to finish all of his classes because he can't afford them. And I did the math on his classes. I was like, oh, is that, like, over $5K, which, whatever. To me, like, if I had an offense, like, that takes precedence and priority over, like, anything else going on in my life. He didn't necessarily see it that way. He's like, yeah, I just don't want to go to jail for a week. That was us. Like, he had kind of a weird attitude about it. And he said he also didn't regret it, which I guess is kind of a red flag. Like, he justified the behavior. But he said, like, I thought it was, like, drinking and driving. I thought it was a DUI. And I was like, I can't have you, like, come here again, like, if you're not allowed to drive. I didn't know that. And he said, no, it wasn't that. And then he got real quiet. He looked at me a certain way. He really didn't want to tell me. Somehow he told me. And he said it was domestic violence. And I said, oh, like, something with your brother? Like, something happened? I think it was his parents. And he's like, nah. He's like, one of my old exes was very erratic and would come over and, like, terrorize the house and his family. And I don't know if he used beat or slapped or punched, but he said, like, he, like, fucked her up a little bit. And I was like, whoa. And he said that she reported it a week later. And I said, well, how is there even any proof on this matter? And he's like, well, I didn't deny that I did it. And, she had a bruise on her. I'm thinking, well, bruise a week later, like, how intense was it? And I felt so many emotions when he told me this. My mom had an abusive, like, military husband as her first husband, and I think she said she miscarried from a baby. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think that was the situation. And so, she still brings that up almost like 40 years later. And I do know that domestic abuse is a big problem, and I only recently realized what domestic abuse entitled, and that it wasn't just partners quarreling, that it's also like families. And yes, the things that your family did to you was domestic abuse. And it's like, I've had to kind of go through those feelings or emotions because I've gone through my life as like, okay, well, get over it. Okay, well, be tougher. Okay, well, the world is harsh, so pick yourself up. Like, if these are the people that love you and this is what's happening, then welcome to the world, bitch. Like, be a good person, be a strong person, do what you got to do to, like, get through life. It's always been kind of like my tactic to kind of cope and survive. But when he told me this last night, after he told me, he felt like he didn't want to tell me. And my first thoughts were like, I appreciate your honesty. I would have rather you been honest. And I appreciate you being vulnerable. I said, this is how I feel, like, connected. Like, I feel like these conversations, like, needed to happen. And he's like, yeah, but sometimes, like, people don't want to say things and you shouldn't be pushing the matter. And we have reasons for not saying what we do. And I was like, I really couldn't relate to that, so I didn't really necessarily agree with him on that. But talk about feelings and emotions and all of this, whether it's because trauma and pain and suffering and sorrow is, has been part of, like, I don't know, 34 years of my life, from being like a drug baby and needing a lot of help when I was a kid, from being like adopted and moving around all these hospitals and being in foster care briefly, to being in this adopted family, and then just being happy that I could be with any family, and, and then being raised into this kind of like tumultuous environment. I mean, it was a lot, right? So I don't know if it's that it's normalized to me. I'm certainly not desensitized to it. It's normal. It's completely fucking normal to me to hear something like this, although you don't normally hear somebody saying that they don't regret it because she was happy and horrible. But I think we are living in a culture that's like guys abuse and they hurt and they deserve it. Girls are victims and don't do anything wrong and girl move it. I feel like there's a division that I see on both sides, and I think why I feel backwards about it is I do have a lot of guy friends. I don't have a lot of girlfriends. Like, I do seem to have, more disagreements with females. But to me, it doesn't come down to male or female, and I think that's the thing that I struggle with in our culture. It's like, okay, my mom could beat me, but then my dad will sit watching me cry and scream, reading a newspaper like nothing was happening. And I would be like, you don't want to talk about why this is happening? Like, this kind of feeling that I would say is like, why are you always taking her side? Why didn't you want to hear the whole story? Like, don't we want to talk about this as a family? It was never a discussion. It was like, oh, well, I'm sure it made sense, your mother's call. And I think it's hard, and maybe part of the reason why I'm saying this too is I had a hyper-avoidant father and an overly overbearing, over-the-top, mothering mother. So I had two extremes in my household, and both weren't super functional or healthy for me. That's probably why I became such a middle ground, is because I have both tendencies in me, of how I was raised, more like knowledge, not tendencies, but I have more knowledge about both and can try to see both sides of things. And it has absolutely nothing to do with gender, in my opinion. So I've said this in previous episodes. I've gone through a lot of traumas from being raped and all this kind of stuff. And I've mentioned this, and I can't stop getting this thought out of my mind, which is, what scares me more, what's more of a monster, what's more criminal, not is the person who's doing what they're doing. Not saying they have a good reason for it, but you would expect less from, a sub-level human. But when the government does nothing about it, when your family does nothing about it, when your law enforcement doesn't take matters into their own hands, when the proper channels don't support you and they just let it happen, and then, you get family that's like, okay, well, it's like a Monday or a Tuesday, and in a week, or when your dad is off work, we'll come over with some cans of soup and some milk, and, we'll get you a temporary burner phone, And I'm like, but I'm scared. I'm in danger. I'm in fear of my life. And then they're saying oh, well, you didn't want us around because you were just screaming. I'm like, I was in sheer fucking terror and I was traumatized and I needed love and support and I was extremely in danger and I felt like I did not have support that I needed. And, when your family says, well, you could have been homeless, they did the best that we could. Most parents would have casted you aside and let you be homeless, and we're better people that we gave you a chance. And although you called us some words, we still love you and we're still here. That's just kind of the attitude, I guess. But, when I got a lot of shit that happened in my life, my ex-husband left. He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to deal with it. Family was like that too, best friends that I have. I know when people go through things, it's almost like the people you don't expect are the ones that dance, and the people you expect would never leave your life are the ones that do. But I think what wigged me out about what I was experiencing yesterday, it wasn't the content of what he told me. Obviously, yeah, it was a little unsettling. Obviously. I hated thinking in my head, well, shit, if you did those kinds of things, I would try to defend myself too, although I do think there's a difference between defending yourself and retaliating. I think he did retaliate. I do think if he had a little bit more remorse, he would have taken his court and his classes a little more seriously. I think that part bothers me. That part of the story bothers me. But when he told me something that seemed bad, that seemed vulnerable, that's taboo, and he told me, I was a little uneasy with my reaction to it, which was like I hugged him, I kissed him, and I said thank you for being vulnerable and expressing yourself and being honest with me. And then I made this really unfortunate comment that felt very genuine, which was like, I'm not gonna lie, like I'm a little horny right now. Are you sure you don't want to have sex before you go? Essentially what I said. I have to contend with saying that and feeling that genuinely. And like I said, I don't rationalize the bad behavior or these types of things that I've been talking about, but I have normalized it. Like, it's fucking normal to me. And I think the issue that I have is that I think emotional abuse, in my own personal opinion and experience, is 10 times 50 million worse than physical assault. Sure, it depends on the degrees of it. You don't want to miscarry a child. You don't want to break limbs or bones. You don't want to not have parts of your body be recovered. I'm just saying that even though I've experienced both, emotional trauma and emotional abuse is 150 million times worse. I would rather take a physical beating over emotional. To me, emotional wounds aren't, I mean, they're like mental scars, but like you can't, I don't want to say you can't get rid of it, but it's ingrained in my blood, it's in my psyche, it's in my brain, it's in my soul, it's in my spirit, it's on the inside of me. You know, you can't just like cover it up with a fucking Band-Aid or heal like a physical wound from that. And depending on if it's coercion, manipulation, control, gaslighting, shit like that can really fucking warp your brain. Really bad. I remember as a child I watched these movies. I think it was called Gaslight. It's like a black and white film. I watched it with my mom, ironically, and then I also watched, what's that movie called? Well, look up the line, no more wire hangers. Anyways, this really like abusive mom that would like hit her daughter with wire hangers. Anyways, look them both up. I think both are black and white films actually. And I watched both with my mom, and I remember sitting with my mom. I was maybe like junior high, maybe high school, but I think more like junior high, watching these movies with her. She says like they're good films. And I remember watching them going, this is extremely unsettling. I was like, why does this feel like the most relatable movies ever? And I'm watching them with my mom, like it's no big deal. But I'm like thinking about how much this makes me feel like my life. And I just had to like sit there on the couch and watch it with her like it wasn't like a big deal. And I was like, oh wow, these movies are rad because I feel like validated for like how I feel right now. You know, another thought that came up to me when I was with that guy yesterday is, and this part like also super fucked with me, and I did not like these feelings at all. But, you know, he went to the bathroom, he was in the bathroom for like a while, like watching stupid fucking movies or whatever. He's like, I was trying not to make sounds, whatever the fuck. He was in there for a while. And I like went to my cat while I was waiting for him. I was like laying on the floor and I was thinking about my ex that is imprinted in my life and in my blood. And I thought to myself, Evelyn, you have two very contradictory feelings, which is you have never stopped loving this man, and I don't know. No, you're not chasing him anymore. No, you're not trying to reach out. You know, no, yes, you've reached the acceptance. Like, yes, you know he's not coming back. But then I also have these thoughts of the way it was handled, the blocking, the controlling, like what blocking does when someone says, like, okay, like, I'm just done after 10 years and, like, I'm not going to talk to you about it, and I'm also going to, like, make it so that we can't communicate. I have Googled if that's a form of emotional abuse, and apparently it is. And I think, well, why would somebody call it emotional abuse, although I agree, when society thinks it's healthy and respectful to block? Girl, respect yourself. Boy, respect yourself. You gotta block that person and live alone. Like, that's the attitude I hear online and in society, and it fucking pisses me off. To me, if anyone's ever been blocked and you genuinely love them, and I'm talking about someone that, like, is unreplaceable in your life, and you get blocked, I can't think, I mean, yes, I don't like to think, but to me, it's one of the most painful, excruciating, traumatic things I've ever had to deal with, right? So I'm laying on my floor, and I'm having this feeling, and I'm like shooken up because right before this guy went to the bathroom, I was very uneasy, and I was trying to process some feelings that I had, and it was like, where are all these weird feelings coming from? And it really fucking freaks me out. And I told him, like, he took a nap on my bed and he was, like, holding me and massaging my arm and he was being really tender and really loving and he doesn't usually like to kiss and, like, I told him that was a problem for me and this time he was being all lovey-dovey. And I said, I haven't experienced this kind of intimacy or, like, love or attention since I was in my 20s. And it shocked me and it freaked me out and I wanted to bawl in a corner crying because I was like, how am I 34? And I'm saying to this guy out loud because it's wild to me. I have not had this type of feeling since my ex when I was 29. And I was kind of traumatized by that feeling. I was like, why has it been so long for someone who cares so much about this? Why has it been so long since I've been held, since I've been kissed, since someone's, like, held my hand or, like, cuddled me, like, in this type of way. And it pissed me off because I was like, universe, I am fucking worthy. I don't think anybody on the planet deserves anything, but I think, I don't use the word deserve, but I know I'm worthy of it. I know I'm a catch. I know I'm a really nice person and really sweet. And I know that, like, that when I'm not sweet, it's because you're doing something that's, like, really not okay. You even admit it, and I'm gonna, like, you know, tell you off for it or stand up for myself. But I'm proud of who I am, and I like who I am. And I think on a human level, I know that a lot of people don't believe in this, and this is more of a philosophy. So it's like you can't make everybody be this way. But I think it's everyone's personal responsibility to take accountability for their own actions. When you get to a certain age in life, you stop blaming everything on your childhood and stop blaming on, you know, other people for what they do to you, and you take responsibility for your own part in the matter. Or, if that's not relevant, you deal with it, you move on, you cope, you be the best person you want to be. You don't have this mentality, well, my family raised me like this, so I'm going to raise my kids like that too, as like a cop-out. And so that's just what I believe. I hold value to the character that I have. I had this like book of virtues when I was like in elementary school, and it was like my favorite book. I really loved morals and ethics and values and all of that. And I just think like being a good human, I do not want to say being a good woman, and I don't want to say being a good man. I think being a good human is like a human who gives a fuck what your gender is or how tall you are or what race you are or what background you had. I don't give a shit about any of that. I care about humans. Like, ignore all the rest. Human, on the human level, what kind of person are you? Not making excuses or justifying bad behaviors, but like, do you do the things that you say you're going to do? Do you believe in redemption acts? Do you believe that people can get better? I do not believe in the expression, once a cheater, always a cheater. I think life is so fucking complicated. And I think I was torn when I was told this story yesterday because I was like, I haven't felt, it wasn't my feelings towards him. It was just more like, I am so stressed all the time. I work on myself all the time. I think naturally, whether I want to or not, I feel like there's a sense of like, respect yourself, be independent, girl power, blah, blah, blah. Like there's this kind of like, what would you call that, stigma, dogma, whatever, this agenda that's like in place in women. And, you know, you hear like, oh, men are terrified to ask a girl out on a date, and, you know, men are changing, they feel like they can't even approach a woman, women are so terrifying, and, oh, but men are chauvinists, and men do that. Like, I'm so fucking sick of both sides. Can you see the bigger picture? Can you see both sides? And so my feelings were torn. My feelings were torn between, you know, I don't see this guy like long term, but there's like things that I like about him. I'm like, these guys with these fancy jobs and these fancy cars and these big lives, you know, are avoidant and non-communicative and like don't take personal responsibility or accountability. And this guy with a little bit of a rough background is like trying, like he comes back and like not just, I mean, you could try a little harder, but I'm just saying like this guy's got a full rounded picture of shit that he's going on, and he's being like sweeter and kinder than like most of these people that are successful and educated and well-rounded and do all these things. And so I feel like you can't, it's hard, right? I was having feelings when I was on the floor and he was in the bathroom. I'm just like sitting there petting my cat going, why do I feel like this man that I loved for 10 years, that the pain and trauma that was caused, what I was doing to cope with our situation and how I tried to make things better that ended up into this giant catastrophe, and how for so many years after our breakup I couldn't get over it, and how hurt and like the pain, the amount of pain and destruction level wise just from being blocked and not communicating and not having that like respect, that alone, because it means so much to me, I felt like it was going to kill me, you know? Feeling that I had to look up was or is blocking a form of emotional abuse, because I felt like that abuse, I felt like that type of emotional turmoil that was caused by our dynamic was, I literally equate it to someone smacking you in the face. Me personally. I think it is so jarring and so difficult to go through, even after years of therapy. And I think it leaves little validation for the people that have gone through some shit. I was torn between these feelings of, why are these feelings comfortable? Why are these feelings normal? Why am I validating and saying that these things can be worked with or seen both sides? Am I not supposed to like hate this guy? Aren't I supposed to slam the door in his face? Like, shouldn't this be a huge red flag and I should blah, blah, blah? And it's just, it's hard. It's really hard. It's really fucking hard. And I just wanted to kind of go through all these thoughts with you, because I do really feel like there needs to be, in every single person's life, personal responsibility and personal accountability. You as a person, how you go about your life, how you want to treat people. And are you going to blame and point fingers at your childhood or your teachers or the government or society or your upbringing or your finances as to why you do the things you do? It drives me crazy. Really does. Really does. I've made some pretty fucked up bad decisions in my past, and I didn't know what I didn't know, and I think I hold on to a lot of guilt and shame, which I've been told constantly that I need to remove and let go of, and that my therapist says I suffered enough. Like, stop punishing yourself. But, like, it's because I'm critical of myself, because I expect more. I strive to be a good human and a good person, to try to see all the various sides. And that's not everybody's goal in life. Not everybody thinks and feels that way. So yeah, it can be a little challenging, because I'm just like, I think that's why people think like, oh, she must not love herself. It has nothing to do with that. It has more to do with being critical, because I want to be a good person. Give me 1 second. Hey folks, I'm back. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I just wanted to say, like, I really hope this point is coming across correctly. I don't think things are black and white. I think things can be very convoluted and complicated. And, like, if someone had an opinion, I don't care what you say, you should never beat a woman. My reply would be, well, in my opinion, I don't care what you say, doing nothing is just as bad. We have all different opinions, and we all come from different worlds and cultures and eras, and, you know, our world is the way it is, which, to be honest, is probably the same world. Can you imagine living in the medieval times? Can you imagine having to deal with the Black Plague, or being educated and reading books as a woman and then getting burned at the stake and called a witch? Like, I don't think there were ever a good time. I think every generation really does have way to help, right? And so I think the point that I'm trying to make is, I don't know what the right decisions are. I just know that on an individual level,
you got to try to be, and I'm not saying you got to, I'm just saying like me and whoever agrees, you got to be the best person you can be and do all that you can. And I do think communication is really key. Let me just throw out some concepts for you and see if this makes sense to you. When I do a fentanyl safety training, and they're saying that more people die from fentanyl because someone assumes they're sleeping, someone assumes they're just taking a break, or they're passed out, or they're fine, or they'll get over it. They don't call the cops. They don't call safety ambassadors. They don't get help. That people die from it. That a lot of fentanyl can be, that you can be saved from it. You know, if someone is aware of the situation and what's happening. When I hear that more deaths happen because less people do something about it, that's fucking tragic to me. when my mom says to me, okay, well, I might not have been the best parent, or I was older and I did better than my parents did for me. And we were told that we should never have you because you were just a drug baby and that drug babies deserve to die. And that death was the better option for you as a baby. And because you were a drug baby. But we didn't think that. We loved you. So, we took you to Chalk Hospital or UCI or whatever, and we got you the help that you needed as a baby, and that's more than other parents, so that's love. We didn't kill you. We weren't the society and people that told us you should have died because you were a drug baby. I'm like, I don't know if that helps. But, that's what type of stuff she says. Or, two members of my family that saw the abuse go down and said, well, selfishly, we love her and we don't want her out of our lives, so we're not going to do anything about it. And it wasn't until, a decade and a half later where I was like, wait, you guys saw the abuse? You saw what was going on? You knew I was struggling? You guys could have done something about it? It really upset me a lot. I was like, okay, you guys knew this was happening, and your answer was to do nothing at all. And I think they would say, well, we tried and we did what we could, but we weren't your parents, so it wasn't really our responsibility. What did you really want us to do? And then the reason why life is complicated is, I got a friend who basically raised himself after 16. His family were homeless addicts. And he got a letter in the mail maybe like a year ago saying, hey, basically the government or whatever was like, hey, you got an estranged sister over here who says that you guys are relatives. Well, she just had a baby. What do you want to do? You want to put this baby that can't be taken care of in the system, or you want to step up? I'm paraphrasing the letter, obviously. And so this guy with no girlfriend, no wife, no big family support system, makes a shit ton of money, has a great friend network, but doesn't have that kind of stereotypical family unit, needs and loves and desires love himself in a partner. And he's been looking for that, is now making an executive decision that he is going to be the full legal custody / dad of his now brother because his sister can't take care and nobody can take care of this baby. He didn't want to see that kid end up in foster care. So this guy on his own is like, yeah, I'm gonna step up. And so I get frustrated when I see all the different sides of adoption. Well, some people would have cast you away, or some people wanted you dead because they didn't know if you were going to walk and you were going to talk, and we decided to love you anyways. And, oh, well, we're not your parents, so it wasn't our responsibility. But I'm just saying there are so many different ways that people try to approach things, and it depends on your own personal character of how you want to be. And that's why it's complicated. Do I think my family could have done more? Yes. When I was younger, did I want validation for what I was going through? Did I want to not feel crazy? And I wanted looking to my left and my right. Does anyone else see this behavior? Why am I dealing with this on my own? Why don't I have anyone to talk to? How come when I talk about it, people make it seem like it's not a big deal? And then hearing as an adult, oh, well, nothing anybody could do. No, well, I don't believe that's true either. But I think the point is it comes down to personal accountability and responsibility and the content of your character and who you are. And you get to decide what kind of person you want to be. Are we going off of social media of what's trendy? Are we going off of political figures and, oh, well, this is, society's trash, or the world is trash, or the world is burning, or our politics look like this, therefore I can honk at you, therefore I can slap you, therefore I can say whatever I want to, therefore I can block you, I don't have respect for your feelings or whatever. If that's what you're doing, I think you are just as much as part of the problem. I think if we're, what's trending online? I'm going to care about this when it's trending online. Like, it's frustrating. And again, I think we have too many people, not enough resources, people falling through the cracks, so many different types of problems and situations. And really, every single person should be not a number, but a human being with a name. And then every single person, I don't care how long it takes, 15, 20 years to finally get that court case, let every single person seek the justice they deserve. Do we live in a corrupt world? Yes. Do some people get the help they need? Yes. Are there great organizations out there? Yes. Are there great nonprofits out there? Yes. I think a lot of people are doing the best they can. I think some people could do better. I think working on yourself and not being lazy and pushing your limits and growing and changing and getting out of your comfort zone is how you grow, how you be better, how you learn. I think a lot of people don't like to do that stuff. So when they say it's hard or other people aren't doing this, I think those are just justifications for, bad behavior or wrong behavior. That's just my opinion. But I think to another point I'm trying to make, because I'm not just trying to come out and say something, because it's more complicated than that. I think a guy that I could be in a relationship with and love for 10 years who ghosts me and has so little respect for my feelings or what happened and doesn't understand the severity of the impact he had in my life and dismissed me and didn't care and treated me like trash. That level of disrespect and dishonor to the relationship or to me in its own way was traumatizing. And this guy last night who's saying, yeah, this is a thing that happened in my past. I didn't want to tell you because I don't want you to see me a certain way. But then tries to tell me things with honesty and communicates in the best way he can and takes personal accountability for his actions and doesn't lie or make justifications for why he does things, because he says, you deserve to know. I respect you as a person. I respect your feelings. And so this is why I'm bringing this to your attention, or this is why, we have these types of conversations, or you might get in your head a little bit too much and it might be annoying sometimes, but that doesn't mean you don't deserve a conversation. When you have people that say things to you like that, it just makes me want to bawl my eyes out. Freaking bawl like a baby. Because I didn't know it was so impossible for very simple things for one person to be not so simple for another person. And then it makes you wonder how hard people are even trying. How much you can really push your limit. Do you know the full story before judging it? Do you see both sides? Do you know into their personal lives? Do you know every nook and cranny of the situation before you're attacking it and judging it? It's so hard to say there's a right or wrong in any of this because the world is very complicated and there's a lot of aspects and avenues to it. But, I'll wrap with this. The reason why this all kind of sparked me is this morning I was hardly awake and I saw my band pull up on my feed on Instagram with a band that I'm going to see next Wednesday. They're flying in from the UK. And they put out this message and I was half awake, not awake. And I was what the fuck are they saying? What? Okay, so the show I'm going to is not canceled, but this CY Fest thing is being canceled. And they're saying allegedly or probably this person is stepping down from the promoter because of alleged or, maybe true multiple offenses of, what was the word? Targeting and basically being a sexual predator to young females in the punk scene. And then you see the reaction. Some bands left in protest. Some said, hey, we want to stay out of this and keep the music going for the fans. You also don't know if some of it is money reasons or, exposure, or we're trying to play Switzerland in this situation, or oh, it's not our battle to fight. I mean, you could argue either side why people are saying or doing the things that they are. Maybe the people left in protest, but maybe they also just didn't want to work and they knew they were going to get paid anyways. Maybe the people that wanted to be Switzerland and stay out of it and do it for the fans was also because they couldn't get their money back and they had been planning for this and they want their own exposure. Who knows the motives and reasons for the way people are? Also, it could be 5 different reasons. It's not just like a convoluted black and white, we're doing this because of this. I had a lot of emotions when I saw that post and went down the rabbit hole of, okay, look up who the promoter is. Okay, are these allegations like true or could they be true? And oh, it's multiple sources and oh, it's over a long period of time. And then I saw that it was like this feminist movement that was basically, attacking him and trying to pursue legal action against this guy. In my head, I was like, oh no, it's going to be a guy versus girl thing again, isn't it? It's going to be women have to be feminists in order to support themselves and men have to be the, victim or not victim. Like, I was so sick of both sides. I thought the situation was tragic. I thought it really sucked. I wish we didn't have to live in a world where a girl has to be this hypervigilant, like, fuck men, girl power. The only thing that matters is girls. Let's fuck over any guys we can because the universe is shit. I don't like that kind of extreme example on the women's side. I don't like the guy side that's like, oh, I'm a victim. Well, we have feelings too. And, we're going to take advantage and manipulate like these women and, blah, blah. The whole bit is on both sides. Take responsibility, take accountability for your own actions. And it's just a matter of that. That's really all it comes down to for me, in my opinion. Oh, well, the women make us feel this way and we can't be men. And I feel like I can't even open a door for a girl without her glaring me in the eyes like laser beams. Like, bro, chill the fuck out. Also, you were probably never a man to begin with, so like, shut the fuck up. Women don't antagonize and make the situation worse. I understand that this is a movement. We need to have these movements. I get that. But like, both sides are so extreme. Like, my mom and I just became independents. We changed our political status to independents. I'm like, fuck the red, fuck the blue, fuck the right, fuck the left. It's not even about that anymore, you guys. There's a bigger picture and a bigger problem here. And I think I'm bringing up certain things to your attention because trying to understand what is right and wrong and the morals and the values and the ethics of life, it's so fucking hard. All I know is yesterday was difficult and emotional for me, and today was very difficult to process my feelings. And I think I tried to process some of them with you now. And it's tough because there are 2 sides. And it's not even sides. There are 2 people involved in a type of situation. How you handle it, the things you say, the things you do, that's my opinion of the matter. You can totally have a difference of opinion. The whole thing is frustrating and tragic and sad. I wish every single person on the planet got the love and attention they deserved. And maybe less people would be snapping. Less people would feel petty or vindictive or disrespectful. Maybe if we all got our needs met, and it doesn't matter what background you came from. I thought about this the other day. A very rich person could get everything they wanted. But if they didn't get the love from their family or they didn't get their needs met, even though they were rich, a poor person might be like, fuck that guy. He's rich. He can have everything he wants. Well, money wasn't the problem for him. Maybe he wanted what you had in your life. One sec.
I just wanted to add a little PS in here somewhere. I want to break down this train of thought. I actually want to sound as unbiased as possible to either side just so you can make your own conclusion, but I thought this statement and conversation was fascinating. So as I was walking through his car yesterday, we were talking about law enforcement and the justice system and all that. And he basically I said, like, be careful when you're driving, be careful when you do these things. He's like, nah, I'm fine. Like, nothing will happen to me. Like, this and this in my life, and cops don't do anything. That's crazy. I don't understand. Like, shouldn't these things, like, be happening to you? And he's like, Evelyn, I could look at a cop right in the face while doing donuts in the street, and the cop will just say, like, okay, just don't do it again. He said, that's my life. I said, well, then don't hang around me, because I'd be your bad luck charm. I said, I could be Miss Little Miss Goody Two-Shoes and not do anything wrong, or me going through trauma and screaming at a cop is enough, land me in jail for the rest of my life. And he's like, well, you probably have a look when you see cops say, like, fuck you kind of attitude. I said, well, maybe, but my fuck you kind of attitude gives me bad luck with cops, and then, you eating and doing this and that gives you doing donuts or that shit doesn't bother the cops. Yeah, if you want to do some dirty work, don't do it around me, because I'll be nothing but bad luck for you. I just, any comments on that? Any thoughts? Another example of how confusing and convoluted the world is. Who's right, who's wrong? Doesn't matter. It's all just chaos. Again, I told myself I'm not going to give an opinion, but think about that concept. Oh my God, GPS. Okay, this is going to be even quicker than last time. In between these segments, when I had to cut off and go to work for a moment, I rang the bell to get this frozen specimen. It was frozen. I couldn't just leave it. Very important. Nobody was coming. This girl sees that I'm struggling and waiting. Presumably it wasn't her department, but yes, she saw me and there was no one else around. And I feel like on a personal level, you could be like, yeah, I don't give a shit about her. It's not my department. I'm not getting paid to help her. I don't want to do extra work. Let me go harass this person and tell them to stop being on their phone or to not be here or to be late, whatever her excuse or whatever, right? I see her. I'm not going to pay attention to her. Someone will eventually come. Who cares if she's worried about paying for parking? I don't care. I'm not thinking about it. I don't care. This random guy from out of the room appears, and he looks over at the woman, and he's like, hey, she can help. And he's like, I don't know what she said. I don't know. And I didn't know what she said, and I knew she shouldn't be the one vouching for me. So I said, actually, I do need help. I'd really appreciate it. And he walks up to me, and he says, well, I'm not even in the department. I don't even know, what to do here. But I said, hold on, let me check real quick. He gets the specimen. He takes it to another department. I'm waiting. He's like, do you need to sign something? Do I need to sign something? I said, I just need a name to confirm that I dropped it off with somebody. He's like, okay, well, let me go check for you. And then, it was a while wait, and then he comes back. And he's like, yeah, it's okay. And I said, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I think there's, to my point of this episode, there's not just two types of people, but lots of types of people. I'm sure all of you see this in your job. The person whose job it is on their phone or doesn't care or doesn't want to try or think their life lightly or is lazy or whatever excuse they want to come up with. But it's their job. And you're sick of the one trying. You're sick of the one overachieving. You just want to rest one or two. You just want to be on your phone too. Instead, you're helping out other humans that are trying to go about their day. And again, it's not like a man versus woman thing or anything like that. It's just personal accountability and responsibility. It was neither of their jobs to help me. There was also no one else to help. None. Period. Zippo. Nobody. And one of them took charge while the other one just watched it happen. And I think that's kind of also a point of mine. I don't know what you would call that. That's me trying to blame the situation. But imagine in a situation where it's neither people's job to give a damn about you. And one person's like, I know it's not my job. I know I'm not getting paid. I'm going to be a fucking human and step up and help that person though. I think that's just your contents of your character. You're either that way or you're not. Can you teach that? I don't know. I was fucking fascinated with this book of virtues that I came across, and I was like, oh my God, I was fascinated with this book. As an elementary school kid, all I wanted to do was learn how to be a good person. I don't know why. Was I taught that? No. I was filled with a lot of fear. But that's who I wanted to be. I don't know. I think you just decide who you want to be. You know what I mean? Maybe not blaming so much for other people or, of why you do the things you do. I think passion and sympathy also comes into play. Okay, I'm done. I'm going to stop. I just thought that was interesting.
Okay, so I can go on forever with these thoughts that I have, but like, again, interesting thought. Two of my exes, would wear these like abolish ICE shirts, and I'm going to wear this pink hat and go to this feminist protest with all of these women and support women and be a part of a change for the government and justice in our world. But yet both of those exes treated me so fucking emotionally fucked up, like in horrible ways that I would consider to be abusive. That I'm like, what do you mean you're part of this feminist whatever and you respect women, you care about women, but then like you ghost and block and don't take accountability or responsibility for your actions and treat somebody in a horrible way? Like, what do you mean you go to these protests and you give a shit about human rights? Like, isn't that like an oxymoron? And then what? The guy that's got a misdemeanor for domestic violence is actually the one that's like communicating and respectful. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to show a contrast here because I think there's something to this. I haven't figured out what it is yet, but like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, do you see the irony here? Do you see the oxymoron, the contradiction? Like, do you see it? Like, what can we call that? Chaos? Life? Is there some psychological term? I'd love to know. I noticed that I feel like with the wrong people, you got to justify yourself or like explain things. And then with the right people, you don't. And it just takes time and practice to find, and life experience to find those people. But I also wanted to mention, because I think one of the emotions I was feeling last night was, crap. Yes, I'm not going to tell people in my personal life, what this guy said to me last night. One, it's not their business. And two, I'm keeping him like anonymous. But I think the reason why I'm bringing this up is because one of my first thoughts was, fuck. Society says you're supposed to it's like a witch hunt. You got to burn these people alive at the stake. I don't care what it is. Domestic abuse is bad. But then we hear all these studies that like law enforcement has multiple cases of domestic abuse in their own families, but it's okay for them to do it if they're in law enforcement. Like, the caveat of these types of statements. And my issue was like, oh my God, like I'm going to have an opinion about these matters and I'm going to be burned at the stake for feeling how I feel. And I think that criticism was more challenging to me than actually hearing like what he said. And I think this is important to note that this is the same guy that I had mentioned in a previous episode refused to bite my ear because he's like, I don't want to fucking hurt you. Like, why would I do that? Why would I cause you pain? Like, what would be the point in that? Like, I'm not going to do it. Yes, I know you want it. Yes, you keep bugging me about it, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not trying to make excuses or justify for anything. I was like walking towards my house and I have this like neighbor friend who's got a super bad home life, and he parks himself in the hallway of the stairs, and it's stuffy and it's hot and there's no windows and it's gross in that hallway. And he would choose to be there to have like peace and not be around his home life, even though he lives like a couple units away. And people judge him all the time. I've heard the janitor make comments. My friends have made comments. Different people have made comments. Oh, is he homeless? Is he on drugs? What is he doing? And he just needs a safe space of his own that he doesn't have. And it can make some people like lose it or snap or not have the abilities to do what they need to do to survive and cope. And not everybody is trying the best that they can. Not everybody is, but a lot of people are. And the more we stereotype or, oh, you can't say or do this because life and people are like this, isn't that part of the problem, assuming everyone is the same kind of person when that's like not the world we're living in? I'm still like shook like in my own mind, when this like dude's in the bathroom for a long time and he's on his phone. And it wasn't until it came out where he was like, yeah, I just didn't want you to hear the noise. But what I saw on the other end of the door was he's taking a long time. He's laughing at videos on his phone. Like, I just shared what I considered to be a very vulnerable, intimate moment with somebody. We didn't have sex. Like, we just cuddled. And it meant more to me than like any big gesture had in like a long time. And I felt so fucking vulnerable and exposed and emotional. And yeah, I was on my period, like whatever. But all I saw was him going to the bathroom, being on his phone for a long time and going. And in my head, I was like, well, who's he talking to? What's he looking up? Like, we just shared this moment. Why does he want to stay in there? Why is he shutting the door? I started getting into my own head about why he was doing this. And it wasn't until he came out that he was just like, well, I want you to hear. And I was like, thinking in my head, like, well, you probably take less time in the bathroom if you just like don't watch content. And I don't know. It's like, it was a moment where I had to reflect on what I was feeling and my own past hurt and my own past traumas. And it's just like, it's just an interesting dynamic. Like, I keep thinking like, people with status or money or power or can get away with things or are good looking or, you know, some people are I'm a Leo and so everything comes easy to me, like that kind of. I heard a guy say that one time and I was like, okay, that's shitty and stupid. Does that just like what? So you just float through life? Like I can't even. But I'm like, I picture some of the guys that are like in my past life. And I'm like, wow, they were really kind of shitty people at times. And I just like accepted it because I had a vision in my head that these were these top-notch, elite, good people, good grades, decent family upbringing, not abusive, whatever, maybe some minor traumas, but whatever. And, you know, they go to the protests, they wear the shirts, they hurrah, hurrah, go team, this team and that team. But then they're so fucking shitty of like people, you know, moments of that. And then this guy who's like, yeah, I deal some drugs because I've had a ton of friends die from fentanyl. And he's like, no, I don't want them to do it, but do I want them? And he's like, yeah, I want to make money, but I'd rather them go to me where I know it's safe than them go out and get it from someone else, which they would, and die on me again. And I was like, man, I was like, look, bro, like you say you want to be a cop one day. You say you want to be like a good person. Yeah, all these things are like problems. I'm not saying that you should be dealing drugs because you don't want your friends to die from a bad source. Like, but there is something to that. And I think when people try to take matters in their own hands because they see that the other powers that be are not able to step in or do something about it, it's tough. I hope this couldn't make sense somewhere in this episode, but I'm just like, wow, the guy that has an offense for domestic violence is telling me he doesn't want to bite my ear because he doesn't want to hurt me. Can we talk about that for a moment? Can you think about that for a moment? But then these other guys that, you know, good grades, good schooling, holds down a job, proper, clean cut, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah, you want me to do what to you? Sure, I'll fucking sock you and choke you and bite you. And sure, I'll rough you up and fuck you up. The contrast. So I'll end with this, you guys. I don't know what's right and wrong. I think you can't say what's right and wrong without having things like court, having things like justice, having things like therapy, having things like conversations over and over and over again. I don't think you can just read a little snippet on social media or hear a little snippet on the news or hear a little snippet from a friend in passing to be able to make these types of decisions. And obviously it is a lifelong skill that we all need to learn to kind of better ourselves. But I think pointing fingers and judging others is not the solution. Do I have my faults and my pains of the way things have been handled in my life? Yeah, but like I said earlier, like, sure, some person might be mega rich and you might be envious because your family struggled. But you don't know if there was something they needed that they never got that came super easy to you. Perceptions are kind of the key. I have the word perception tattooed on my right forearm because I constantly want to be reminded that we don't know everything and not everything is the way that it looks or seems. I want to send a lot of love and light to you guys. For anybody who's struggling, no one should have to go through bullshit. I think all people probably go through some sort of bullshit. And I think a lot of us are heroes and warriors just for trying to survive and keep going. And no, I don't think we should tolerate bad behavior. But I do believe in redemption acts. I do believe in second chances or even third chances. I do believe that there is more than just what is in our vision that is left to be explored. And above all else, in this message that I've been trying to get across for the last hour, is that I firmly believe in personal accountability and personal responsibility. I don't think we could possibly judge or manipulate or wonder or ponder about anything else in life when we are not all like really designed the same way. And even as humans, we are evolving, literally, within our bodies, spiritually, emotionally, physically. We are. So how the hell is anything supposed to get done in this crazy world? And I think focusing on the positive is important. But I do hope that you can kind of open up your brain sockets a little bit, see both sides, see the corners, see all the angles, see all the perceptions, hear all the stories, read content, read materials, study things. Don't just blast shit out on the internet because it sounds cute or it sounds trendy or you want to be matchy with your neighbor, whatever. I love you guys. I just don't even know what else to say. I'm still processing a lot of this kind of stuff. Different emotions, different feelings. Are they right? Are they wrong? Are these feelings valid? Do these things that I'm saying make sense? Are there truths to this when it's not just me, when there's other people involved? It's kind of wild, you guys. But I love you. And for anybody that's listening, I really appreciate you for taking the time to learn and grow and study and hear a different opinion and think for yourself. And I would love to know what this makes you think of. I would love to know how this sparked interest in certain topics and conversations for you, if it just made you ponder things and get out of your head or your norm for a little bit and tried something different, seeing different perspectives than your own. I love you so much. Take care.